Stop crying, stop mourning over what left your life. What you call loss, heaven calls preparation. There are things, there are people, there are opportunities that God will strip away, not because they were evil, but because they were not essential to where He is taking you. You cannot carry excess baggage into destiny. God has removed the unnecessary. You see, we often cry for the things that were never designed to remain with us forever. There are people who were only assigned to a season, but you tried to make them permanent. There are doors that looked good, but were never meant to be walked through. And when God closes them, it feels like rejection, but in reality, it is direction. Every subtraction in your life is making room for multiplication. Hear me, if God took it, you did not need it. If He allowed it to leave, it was not part of your future. He never subtracts without the intention to add. He never prunes without the vision of growth. When the gardener cuts the branch, it is not punishment. It is so the tree may bear more fruit. Stop weeping over the branches that are gone. Lift your head, because your fruit is coming. Do not confuse your feelings with God's will. Your tears may blind you from seeing that what you lost was actually a limitation. The job you didn't get, the friend who betrayed you, the opportunity that slipped away. They were never aligned with your destiny. God is not protecting your comfort. He is protecting your calling. He is not preserving your feelings. He is preserving your future. The truth is this: destiny demands separation. You cannot take everyone where you are going. Some relationships are too heavy for your assignment. Some habits are too toxic for your purpose. Some opportunities are too small for your potential. And because you would not let them go, God had to remove them for you. What He took away was not a mistake. It was mercy. So stop crying. Wipe your face. Stand tall. Your God is too wise to make an error and too intentional to waste an experience. Every closed door, every broken relationship, every sudden ending is a divine setup for a new beginning. What left you has simply made space for what is coming. Your tomorrow is too important to be polluted by yesterday. God has removed the unnecessary, so that you can finally walk freely into the essential. When God begins to work in your life, He often does it through a process we least expect removal. We pray for increase, but sometimes the first response we see is decrease. We ask for promotion, yet the first thing that happens is separation. This is because divine growth does not begin with addition. It begins with pruning. Just as a gardener cuts away branches that consume but do not produce, so God removes what is unnecessary in order to prepare you for what is essential. The pain of losing something is often the evidence that heaven is aligning you for fruitfulness. Many times, what we call loss is not really loss. It is pruning, and pruning is never about punishment. A tree is not cut because it is dying. It is cut because it has the potential to bear more fruit. That means when God takes something away from you, it is not a sign of rejection but of trust. He sees capacity in you that you do not see in yourself. He knows that your roots can handle more than what you are currently carrying. But if He leaves the unnecessary branches, their weight will hinder your growth. Think about it. Some of the people you thought you needed most were the very ones draining your energy, discouraging your faith, and distracting your focus. They looked like friends, but they were functioning like parasites. They took your time, your strength, and your joy, yet gave you nothing that pushed you closer to purpose. And because your heart was too loyal, God had to intervene and cut them away. It hurt, yes, but that pain was a rescue. He saved you from wasting years on relationships that had no destiny connection. Pruning also happens in opportunities. Not every open door is a God door. Sometimes an opportunity comes dressed in success, but it is a trap in disguise. If you walked through it, you would end up stuck in a place far beneath your true assignment. So God shuts it down. You cry, you question, you wonder why it didn't work out. But months or years later, you look back and realize that the closed door was protection from disaster. What seemed like a missed chance was really a divine redirection. And do not think that God only prunes through relationships and opportunities. He also removes habits, attitudes, and attachments. There are behaviors you once enjoyed that you can no longer tolerate. There are mindsets you used to live by that no longer fit who you are becoming. He strips them away not because you are weak, but because you are advancing. Every new level demands a lighter load. Carrying yesterday's patterns into tomorrow's purpose will only weigh you down. So he cuts. Pruning is proof that you are valuable. Nobody prunes a dead tree. Nobody spends time cutting branches off a stump. The very fact that God is removing things from your life is evidence that He sees life in you. He knows you are worth investing in. He knows you are capable of bearing more. So He is shaping you, trimming you, adjusting you, not to reduce you but to release your potential. So when you feel the sting of loss, ask yourself, what is God making room for? What kind of fruit is He preparing me to produce? Because every divine subtraction has a future multiplication attached to it. What He cuts today is what will allow you to expand tomorrow. This is divine pruning, the removal of the unnecessary so the essential can flourish. Separation is one of the most difficult principles to accept, yet it is also one of the most necessary for destiny. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into the next chapter of your life. Some were designed to start the journey with you, but not to finish it. Others were positioned to support you in one season, but they cannot survive the altitude of the next. Every elevation in life requires separation, because the higher you go, the fewer people can handle the atmosphere. If you try to carry everyone with you, you will either slow down your climb or sabotage your destination. When God begins to elevate you, He also begins to sift the company around you. You may have noticed that certain people suddenly lose interest in you, certain relationships begin to fade, or certain connections become strained. This is not always an attack. Sometimes it is divine design. God knows that their presence at your next level would only corrupt or compromise your assignment. They were useful for encouragement when you were starting, but they cannot comprehend the weight of what you are becoming. What you perceive as rejection is often God's way of protecting your future. Consider the eagle. When it begins to soar, it does not fly in flocks like sparrows. The higher it goes, the lonelier the skies become. Its strength is not in numbers but in vision and endurance. Likewise, when God is taking you higher, He separates you from the crowd. Popularity is not proof of destiny. Purpose often demands solitude. And though separation feels like isolation, it is really insulation. God covering you until you are ready to function at the new altitude. There are times when you may try to hold on to people because of shared history. You think they've always been with me, so they must continue with me. But divine elevation does not operate on sentiment, it operates on assignment. Some people were with you for comfort, not for calling. Some were attracted to your personality, but are not connected to your purpose. If you drag them into a season they do not belong to, they will become a burden rather than a blessing. That is why God Himself intervenes and causes a separation you cannot reverse. This is why betrayal, misunderstandings, or sudden distance often occur when you are on the brink of a breakthrough. The people who cannot handle your future will often find a reason to exit before you arrive there. It is painful to watch them go, but their departure is part of your preparation. Destiny is weighty, and God will not allow you to carry excess weight into it. Your circle may shrink, but your capacity will grow. Your friends may reduce, but your influence will expand. The crowd around you may thin, but your roots will deepen. Separation is also a test of trust. Can you trust God enough to release what He removes? Can you believe that His plan is greater than your preference? It takes faith to let go of people you love, roles you've grown used to, and environments you're familiar with. Yet holding on to what no longer belongs in your future can cost you the very thing you are praying for. Every elevation has a price, and often that price is separation. So when God begins to shift your relationships, when He pulls certain people out of your life, when He closes certain doors to circles you once valued, do not despair. Recognize that it is a sign that your altitude is changing. You are moving from where you were to where you were meant to be, and only those assigned to that level will remain, because separation is always the gateway to elevation. Trusting the wisdom of God is one of the greatest challenges of faith, because his decisions rarely align with our emotions. We often measure life by what we can see, touch, and understand, but God operates from an eternal perspective. He sees the end from the beginning, while we only see the moment. When something is taken away, we assume it is loss. When a door closes, we call it rejection, but heaven calls it protection. What looks like subtraction in your eyes is often preservation in God's eyes. You cry over what left, but God smiles because he knows what's ahead. The wisdom of God is not always comfortable, but it is always purposeful. There are times when he will remove something you thought you could not live without, simply because he knows it would destroy you if you kept it. That relationship you begged him to save, he allowed it to end because he saw the betrayal hidden in the future. That opportunity you thought was perfect, he let it slip away because he knew it would shrink your vision and confine your potential. You mourn today, but if your eyes could see tomorrow, you would give thanks. God's wisdom protects you from dangers you cannot discern. This is why trust is so critical. Trust means leaning on his understanding even when yours is screaming for answers. It means resting in his decisions even when your heart is breaking. Trust is not blind. Trust is built on the revelation that God is incapable of error. If he allowed something to leave, it was never essential to your destiny. If he shut a door, it was never designed for you to walk through. He does not make random choices. Every act of removal is a calculated move in the strategy of your purpose. The danger is that when we do not trust his wisdom, we end up chasing what he has already released. We run after relationships he has cut off, we force doors he has closed, and we hold on to habits he is trying to break. And every time we resist his pruning, we delay our progress. You cannot move forward while dragging what God has declared unnecessary. It is like clinging to broken pieces of a ship while he is calling you into a new vessel. You are holding on to fragments while he is preparing fullness. Trusting God's wisdom requires humility. It means admitting that he knows more than you. It means accepting that his sight is higher, his plan is broader, and his love is deeper than your comprehension. He does not withhold because he is cruel. He withholds because he cares. A parent does not let a child play with fire, not because the fire is not real, but because the fire can destroy. Likewise, God blocks certain things not because they are not real, but because they are not right for you. His wisdom is a shield, even when it feels like a sword. Think of how many times you cried over what you lost, only to thank God later that it was gone. The job you didn't get that made you frustrated, but later opened the way for something greater. The person who walked out on you that broke your heart, but years later you realized they would have poisoned your peace. The opportunity that collapsed in your hands, only for God to open a door that was far beyond your imagination. At the moment you did not understand, but his wisdom was working. So when God removes, do not let your tears blind you to his intention. Trust him. Trust that he is too faithful to forsake you and too wise to mislead you. Trust that he orchestrates every ending as a doorway to a greater beginning. Trust that his wisdom is not robbing you, but rescuing you. The very thing you thought you needed most may be the very thing he had to remove, because he loves you too much to let you settle for less than his best. Release is the doorway to increase. Until you are willing to let go of what no longer serves your destiny, you cannot receive what is designed for your future. God will never fill hands that are already full. He will never deposit new oil into vessels that refuse to be emptied. Many times we hold on to the familiar, not because it is fruitful, but because it is comfortable. We cling to relationships, positions, and opportunities that no longer carry life, simply because we fear the uncertainty of what comes next. But the principle of the kingdom is clear. What you release creates the space for what God intends to replace. Think of the farmer. He cannot reap unless he is willing to sow. As long as the seed remains clutched in his hand, it will never multiply. But the moment he releases it into the ground, it enters the process of transformation. What looks like burial is actually planting, and what looks like loss is the beginning of gain. In the same way, what you release in obedience may look like death to your comfort, but it is the beginning of resurrection for your purpose. If you do not release the unnecessary, you will never encounter the extraordinary. One of the greatest barriers to destiny is attachment. You can be so emotionally tied to what you once needed that you cannot recognize when it has expired. Israel cried for Egypt even after God had opened the Red Sea. They longed for slavery even while freedom was calling them forward. That is the danger of holding on. You risk longing for yesterday while forfeiting tomorrow. Releasing is not about denying your past. It is about refusing to let your past dictate your future. Sometimes we disguise fear as loyalty. We say we are being faithful to a relationship, a role, or an opportunity, but in truth, we are afraid of what life will look like without it. But what if the very thing you refuse to release is the chain that is keeping you from moving? What if the person you insist on holding is the reason your growth is delayed? What if the environment you refuse to leave is the reason your vision has not expanded? Release is not betrayal, it is alignment. You are not abandoning people or opportunities, you are obeying God. Releasing is also an act of trust. It declares that you believe God is not finished with you. It says, "What I have lost is not greater than what I am about to gain." It means you trust His promise enough to surrender your preference. Too often, we ask God for more, but resist the process of letting go. We want new doors to open, but we keep holding on to the old keys. We want new relationships, but we refuse to release the toxic ones. We want increase, but we cling to old systems that cannot sustain expansion. Release is the evidence of expectation. If you believe God is bringing better, you prepare by letting go of lesser. And let us be clear, release is not easy. It often involves tears, pain, and a sense of emptiness. It may feel like your world is collapsing when God calls you to let go. But emptiness is not a curse. It is a canvas. It is the place where God paints His greatest masterpieces. Until the jar is emptied, the oil cannot flow. Until the womb is empty, conception cannot occur. Until the vessel is vacant, the filling cannot begin. What feels like emptiness is actually preparation for overflow. So the question becomes, what are you willing to release? What are you holding on to that God has already declared expired? Until you release it, your hands will remain too full to receive what He has prepared. Release is not just an act of letting go. It is an act of making room. And only when you make room will you discover the abundance God had been waiting to pour into your life. God is more committed to your purpose than He is to your comfort. He is more invested in your destiny than in your temporary emotions. Comfort may soothe you for a moment, but it does not transform you. Purpose, on the other hand, will stretch you, challenge you, and sometimes break your heart before it builds your future. The reason God removes certain things from your life is not because He wants you to suffer, but because He knows that clinging to them will sabotage your ultimate assignment. What He allows you to lose in comfort, He always restores in destiny. Comfort can be deceptive because it makes you settle. It convinces you that the present is enough, even when it is far below what God intended for you. Think of the Israelites in the wilderness. They were freed from slavery, yet the familiarity of Egypt still pulled at their hearts. They longed for the food of bondage rather than embracing the freedom of destiny. That is the danger of comfort. It blinds you to the greatness that lies ahead and tempts you to settle for mediocrity. God loves you too much to allow you to remain satisfied with just enough when He has designed you for overflow. Purpose will often disrupt your comfort. It will call you out of familiar places into unknown territories. It will demand that you leave relationships, positions, and environments that no longer align with your assignment. Purpose is not about pleasing your feelings. It is about fulfilling God's intention for your existence. Every time God removes the unnecessary, He is prioritizing your destiny over your comfort. He is saying, "I have invested too much in you to let you remain here. I created you for more than this." Many times we cry because we think God has ignored our prayers, when in fact He has answered them in a way we did not expect. You prayed for growth, so he removed what was stunting you. You asked for increase, so he cut away what was draining you. You begged for clarity, so he took away the distractions. It hurt your emotions, but it saved your destiny. You wanted comfort, he gave you purpose. Comfort is for a season, but purpose is for a lifetime. Comfort gives you relief, but purpose gives you legacy. Purpose also requires pruning because destiny cannot be fulfilled while you are entangled in unnecessary attachments. The weight of your calling is too heavy for you to carry extra baggage. If God allowed you to keep everything you wanted, you would lose focus. That is why he removes. He is not stripping you to make you weak. He is positioning you to make you effective. Every tear you cry in the process of letting go is watering the ground of your future. The pain of losing comfort is the preparation for the power of walking in purpose. We must understand that our emotions, while real, are not always reliable. Feelings are temporary, but destiny is eternal. You cannot build your life around what feels good in the moment and expect to fulfill the call of God on your life. At times, you must endure the discomfort of separation, the ache of loss, and the sting of rejection, knowing that all of it is working for a higher goal. God does not measure your life by how happy you are today. He measures it by how aligned you are with the assignment He placed in you before you were born. So whenever God removes the unnecessary, do not see it as cruelty, but as clarity. He is not ignoring your tears, He is investing in your future. He knows that destiny is more valuable than comfort, and calling is greater than convenience. The things you thought you needed were only props for one chapter of your life, but purpose is the script that carries you to the end. God will risk your emotions to protect your eternity. He will interrupt your comfort to secure your crown. He is committed to your destiny, even when it costs you your comfort.